of NBA. I'm here with my boy Schlong. Bryce, how you doing?
I'm wonderful. Get NBA back. It's been long season in the NFL streets. You know, it's good to get a different sport in your life for once.
Yeah, I feel that. So, two-gamer, Bronny James. You know, this honestly might be one of the more impressive accomplishments in the history of sports. Because in basketball, like, one, you have to last until you're 40. Two, you had to have had a kid when you're like 19. Three, the kid has to be at least kind of good enough to make the NBA. And yet, here we are. LeBron's about to play with his kid. What do you think about that?
I think the longevity aspect's the most impressive. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, fuck, you could have probably had a kid at 19. I'm sure these guys are pounding them out nice and early. Yeah. So that part to me is not the crazy part. I think the fact that LeBron is still playing at such a high level, not to like slurp him or anything, is like just pretty impressive at this point in his career.
Yeah. No, I mean, I will just slurp him. Like, yeah, like he's like LeBron's the GOAT, and this is one more thing that proves he's the GOAT. So, you know, this is just crazy, you know. And you're hearing, you know, Brian Windhorst came out and he was saying like, oh, I think Bronny's going to get minutes at the beginning of the second quarter, but like I wouldn't be surprised if they just started him just to get the moment.
Yeah, I know we were talking about this like off stream for a bit. And you kind of had that take, and I had the take like, oh, he'll just play like a normal guy with the second unit. I'm sure they have like some stuff drawn up for him. I kind of think he wants to be with the second unit so they can like feature like at least like a play or two to him, like get him an easy basket.
Yeah, like a pick and roll.
Yeah, you know, like LeBron, and you brought this up, is like told Gobert to like just fuck off if he's like trying to block his shot and stuff. So I'm sure they have something drawn up to him, and then he probably does nothing the rest of the game.
Yeah,
like I see him playing like one stint in the first half, like probably not in the second half, is kind of like where I'm at on that.
Yeah, I've got him at like 6 minutes, I think, which frankly, like, so if he plays a guaranteed 6 minutes in the first half, and then if the game isn't close at the end, there's a chance he could be optimal in Showdown. The problem with Showdown is that he's not 1K flat. He's 2,600, so it's a little more difficult to fit him in, especially when Hayes and Knecht are like close in price range. But
yeah,
you know,
did they redo the Showdown floor this year? Because I'm like, there's no 1K players on either Showdown.
Yeah, no, it's all 2K now.
So I mean, that drastically changes the Showdown game. Like, I mean, you could see
they don't want punts anymore.
Well, because you could see these 1K guys get there if they hit like a 3, or like if you like needed the absolute studs on that slate, like it would just be super weird combinations.
Yeah, and Boynton makes a good point here. Most books have 1.5 as a prop for Bronny. I think that he's going to score a 2. I think he's going to get a layup. So I would go ahead and lock in that over. I like that a lot, actually. That's like one of my favorite prop bets tonight is Bronny to score a basket.
I know we were talking about it in the Discord earlier, and you brought up they're just going to script him a layup to like start his rotation. And I mean, with all the fanfare in town, like, you know, LeBron loves that. Like, I mean, he's posting on Twitter like rookie like pre-recorded like rookie videos that they're like acting out of like 40 pebbles in his car and stuff. Like, if there's a thing about LeBron, he loves the fanfare and he loves to make a big deal of like his accomplishments because he's like such a narcissist that like this is like the perfect narcissist scenario. Like everything's about him and his kid tonight.
Oh, Bronny's going for 2, 1, and 1, and LeBron's going for like 40, 15, and 10.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think LeBron gets lost in the shuffle here a bit. Like, it's not that hard to jam in the studs, but like, I think everyone's just going to be playing like Tatum Towns is going to be like the chalk combo, I would think.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the Laker game total is the exact same as the early game total. It's not like it's any lower. And it's like, I know Minnesota's a good defensive team, but you know, statistically, I don't see why the Lakers, the Lakers have a higher team total than the Knicks. And it's not like they're like super deep. So I don't see why LeBron wouldn't pop off tonight. You know, people are worried about his minutes and this and that and the other, but they tried to cut his minutes at the beginning of last season, and he told the coach to fuck himself. I don't think JJ Redick's going to pull that same shit. So I think LeBron's going to be just fine.
I completely agree with that Lakers take. Like, the difference here is, like, you don't have Tom Thibodeau coaching one of the teams. Like, so he's not going to run him straight into the ground. But, like, we've talked about how we think that LeBron is, like, really going to want to do well here. And, like, this game is about him. They're not going to limit his minutes on this game. Like, I just don't see that being, like, a scenario. Like, I'm not sure what you have, Matt. I have him at 34 minutes, which is pretty high for, like, LeBron normally. But
I've got 36.
There you go. Like, I mean, he's going to sit a couple minutes a quarter, and he's going to get what's his, and like he normally does. So,
and every minute that Bronny's in there, he's going to be in there.
100%. Bronny is not touching the facilities, much less the floor, without his dad here. Yeah. So, that might help his tick with the second unit. I think that's a good point.
Yeah. No, I mean, I love the Lakers from a DFS perspective tonight. I think everybody's going to be on the Knicks, which makes sense because Thibodeau likes to play the condensed rotation. Miles McBride's too cheap, which they seem to have done on purpose. Jericho Sims is even too cheap. But I really like the Lakers. I really do. So I guess we can attack it now. We'll start with the full slate, and then we can kind of delve into Showdown midstream here. So
yeah, and if you guys have any questions about something specific, whether it's Showdown or like props and whatnot, like just shoot it in the comments, and we'll do our best to get to it.
This is true. I am built different. I would never fumble.
I'm sure you fumbled at one point in your life.
Never fumbled.
Did you play football?
No.
There you go.
I played basketball. No fumbling.
No fumbling, no missed free throws.
Boynton, you underestimate the power of nepotism here.
I mean, Boynton loves Dalton Knecht. I don't think that there's any doubt about that. I actually think Dalton's a good play on this slate. We can get to him, but I think, especially in Showdown, I think he's a really good Showdown play as opposed to like the full slate, where it's like, in my opinion, a lot harder for him to get there.
So the thing about Dalton Knecht on the full slate is that, like, I would really fucking love it, but Boynton actually texted me about this about 20 minutes ago. I fear that, like, what if they play Bronny 20 minutes?
See, I don't think that happens. I think it's more of like, oh, you're getting so much Miles McBride in your lineups just in general because of like the way the Knicks are going to run their rotations here, that like you're just kind of forced out of some of these other cheap guards.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And, McBride, like he's a borderline lock for me. I was getting like running it natively. I was getting, 70, 75%. So, at that point you're thinking about locking it. And, but yeah, I mean, it cuts into the other cheapies significantly because you don't really need the salary at the top because the expensive guys are not crazy. AD is only 9,400, and that's the top. LeBron's under 9K. Insane. So they want you to get those guys in there. You don't really have to go to the – so it's not as important. And so you just end up with all this Miles McBride, which makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like what they did with the pricing tonight. It's much softer than it would be for most slates this season. And, they're really trying to attract new people to the game. Like, you can see that with, like, this new tier stuff they're doing where it's like sites have tried this in the past and it hasn't worked. But, like, you just choose a player that's going to score the most points. So it's like where the leverage is going to be. Makes it – I kind of think it's a dull game. I prefer normal DFS. But you can see what they're trying to do here. And with the massive prize pools tonight, it's just a really nice night of contests. So – yeah, I think that like these cheap guys, like the super cheap guys here, aren't quite as viable to me as they normally would be on a 2-gamer.
Yep, I agree 100%. The only guy that I'm using below McBride is Sims because somebody has to play backup center for the Knicks, and Towns has shown a propensity to get into foul trouble, and So I don't mind Sims too much.
Yeah, I think who's the other one? I think Sam Hauser is somewhat viable here. In terms of like full punts. I know we're getting a couple of questions in chat here. Like Omayuri, Walker, or Goodwin. I got none.
Is he just making up? He's just making up names.
So yeah, I mean, I think McBride is more of an interesting discussion, like single entry stuff tonight. Like, are you going to eat the chalk or fade him? Because he's going to be what, 50% or higher in high stakes for sure. In low stakes, he probably comes in around 50. I think he gets steamed a bit in high stakes here. So we have him at 48% ownership, and we actually have Naz Reid higher at 49. Mm-hmm. I don't really. I think that McBride outpaces Naz in terms of ownership, but like, if you want to automatically get different, like just play one of the two instead of playing both. Like you can do stuff like that in NBA because it's so easy to identify the chalk on a slate like this.
I totally agree, especially at the beginning of the season, because nobody, like, even people that try and have strong takes, you don't really know too much from what happened in preseason. Guys haven't played. Julius Randle's only played one preseason game with the Timberwolves, which I think really, to me, it really hurts his upside. Like, I don't have him with that many minutes just because he hasn't like integrated with the team as much. That could be wrong, but I'm heavily shorting Julius Randle for that reason. Whereas LeBron hardly playing in preseason obviously doesn't fucking matter because he's been on the team for a number of years. And I was actually going to touch on this question from Pizza. How many Knicks is too many Knicks? And I think that a lot of people are going to play 5, and I think that's wrong. And I think 4 is even kind of high. I would not play 4 unless you have either McBride or Sims. So it's 3, but if you have McBride or Sims or both, then 4 would be the max.
I think that's a really good take, especially specifying that like you need a cheap guy in there if it's going to get to 4, just because like
you don't want Brunson, Towns, and all the starters.
Well, the Knicks are cheap, like it, unless the game goes triple OT, in which you're probably screwed anyways to the 5 stacks. Like Towns, Brunson, like Hartman and Obi are not all going to get there in the same game. So yep. I think that's
totally agree.
That's a really good point,
especially against the best defensive team in the league.
Yeah. There's another question on here that I like. Brown smash spot after he's left off the Olympic team. I think I kind of think that's interesting. Like he's been doing a ton of interviews about like how like he's never going to join Nike, and if they leave him off like the future Olympic team, so be it. But NBA players are so petty that like I'm much more like into reading narratives and stuff on a 2-game opening night slate, just because like as you said, there's not tons of like data to go on in terms of like guys on new teams. Like, the sample size is just pretty much non-existent because I don't really put any stock into preseason unless like someone is just simply not playing like any minutes and it's not like LeBron or something like that. So I didn't really see anything in the preseason that would affect this slate too much. So you don't have tons to go on.
Totally agree. Other than possibly Dalton Knecht, who went fucking nuclear in preseason. So I get that. But, as we stated earlier, I think his minutes are going to get a little robbed by Bronny. You got thoughts on Hauser over Pritchard? Let me check here.
I kind of prefer Hauser just because like McBride is eating so much of my guard ownership there. Like in a vacuum, like showdown wise, I would prefer Pritchard over Hauser. But yeah, like,
I have
due to position stuffs, I personally prefer Hauser.
Yeah. All right, let's start at the top and then go from there. All right, the range of 9,400 down to we'll cap it at 7,800 where Towns is. Your AD, Tatum, James, Edwards, Brunson. What do you like and dislike in that range?
I think my biggest sell here is probably going to be Tatum, just because like he rates out the highest, and like I have these guys all kind of clumped so close together that like there's not tons separating them. So like I'm just kind of trying to sell ownership a bit here and like get above some of these guys. The guys I want to be above on for sure are LeBron and Anthony Davis. I think we both have the same kind of Lakers takes that like I think it's an absolute smash spot for both of them. Like, I mean, they're 8,900, 9,400. I think that's really solid. I think Anthony Edwards could go under-owned here to this Knicks-Boston game. I'm kind of assuming that this Knicks-Boston game is going to be chalk compared to the second game of the night here. So I'm likely going to be higher on the second game in general. Jaylen Brown, I'm likely going to be over on here simply because, like, I like him in the spot. I think that he comes out, like, really firing here. And guys I'm going to be lower on, Julius Randle for sure. I think that with the Timberwolves, he's just not going to get to do the same stuff that he did with the Knicks, obviously with Gobert there. So, like, not playing the 5 is really going to hurt him, in terms of pretty much every peripheral category. And, like, I'm a little more willing to eat that on, like, DraftKings than FanDuel, but on a night like tonight where, like, I don't know, you can get Anthony Edwards for 800 more, LeBron for 900 more, Tatum for 1K more, Brow for 1,400 more. Like, I just think that he kind of gets lost in the shuffle for me. I'm likely going to be under on him. And Towns, I think, is per dollar one of the best plays on the board. But, at 7,800, him and Brunson, like, I'm kind of going more mid-tier with these Knicks in general. Like, I'm kind of hammering, like, the mid-tier and, like, Miles McBride type of Knicks. So, like, I'm not fading any of these guys by any means, but those are kind of my buys and sells here.
I agree with most of your points. I'm not as high on Jaylen Brown just because I think he's a little overpriced. But as far as Randall, I don't think there's any world that Randall should be higher priced than Towns. Towns seems to integrate with this new team a little better than Randall has. But as far as the others, yeah, I mean, they're all very, very similar. So if ownership kind of coalesces around one of the higher priced guys, like say Tatum, like you mentioned, where he ends up over 50% ownership, going to be short there and over. But the guy I really like up there is LeBron. I think LeBron may go a little under owned here just because, he didn't play in the preseason. People think, the beginning of last season, he was minute limited for like 2 games, and maybe that applies here. I don't think it applies here at all. So I'm going to be heavy overweight on LeBron. That's the goal here on this slate at the top for me. We'll punch into the next section now, which is your 6,800 down to, we'll cap it at Pritchard. So you got Mikal Bridges, 6,800 down to Pritchard, 4,700. What guys do you like and dislike in that kind of $2,000 mid-range?
Okay, so I think my favorite play here is probably Gobert, to be honest. You need to play big against Anthony Davis, and as long as he stays out of foul trouble here, like I think he sees a ton of minutes. I don't think he gets squeezed as much by Randall. Like, I think they're going to go out there and play them a lot together and, like, stagger them well enough to the point where, like, Randall's always playing backup center when he's not playing center for the most part. So I don't know. I like Gobert tonight. I don't think people are going to be on him. A guy I do think people will be on is Derek White. It's just a cheap price for him. I think him, Russell, and Reeves are kind of the chalk in this range, in my opinion. When you go down a bit more, you get to like the Jrue Holiday, who I kind of think gets lost in the shuffle tonight. Conley, who I think for sure gets lost in the shuffle tonight. He's still their starting point guard, and on a 2-game slate, that makes you viable at pretty much any price to me. Then you get to the Knicks guys like OG and Hart. How owned do you think they're going to be compared to the Lakers guys like Russell and Reeves?
I think OG and Hart are going to be the most owned.
I would agree with that. I just kind of think, like, if people are fading some of these Lakers studs and playing like the Knicks guys, like they might like just kind of rotate to these Lakers guys a bit, like the mid-tier players, and maybe we get Hart and OG at like slightly lower ownership. So that's kind of more of a wish than like a strong take, just because I really like them today. Knowing Tibbs, would it surprise you if either of these guys played 40 minutes tonight? No. It's like a new look team. They want to go out and beat Boston. This is a classic Tibbs game, like right off the bat.
They could also get their ass kicked.
they 100% could. Boston's a really good team. I don't think that you can play too much into blowout scripts here. And like on 2-game slates, I think way too many people play blowout scripts. So I just simply don't do it. Kind of let the optimizers decide like if there's going to be a game stack or not. But I'm more like limiting number of players per team here, as opposed to like limiting game stacks is how I approach building it. But I don't think you can build too much into that. I mean, it's only a 6-point spread. Like,
right.
I think it would take a lot to get them blown out to the point where Tibbs just says, fuck it. We're not trying to win this game anymore.
He plays guys down 30.
Yeah. I'm a little less worried, or a lot less worried about blowouts with Tibbs than pretty much any other coach in the NBA, which is also why he is the absolute GOAT. I think Naz Reid is a pretty interesting discussion. What's your take on him for this game?
I've got him a ton. I think he's going to get a lot of minutes. I think there's upside just in general with his normal minute count. But if, Randall or Gobert happens to get into foul trouble, then it's even higher. And he's such a high point per minute guy. They love him there. I don't see how at 4,900 he isn't your second highest guy behind McBride.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. How much? So say these guys are 50% owned, him and McBride. Who would you rather play in a vacuum?
Between him and McBride?
Yeah, if you could only play one.
McBride, just because he's cheap, and then you could fit more of the LeBrons up there. But yeah, I mean, I think they're very, very similar plays. Like, I've done, I don't know, 50-something runs now, and some of them are McBride more, some of them are Reed more. I prefer the McBride more runs just because they get more of the expensive guys. But I think they're both very good plays. Let me digress into some questions here. Boynton had an interesting one. Sabre has 3K minute. That seems really high.
That seems like an error to me.
That seems like an error to me.
Minutes
I'm not playing Minnow
like 3%. I think in my run I had 2-minute teams. I don't even know how to say his name. I have 4 in Showdown. There you go.
Yeah.
I think there's plenty of value today. And the thing is, like, even though we want to jam the studs, and I really do think that jamming the studs is the right approach on this slate, they're not priced like studs. Like, there's no, I don't know, you're paying $12K for Jokic. You're not doing that on the slate. So I don't really think you need to go down that far into the dumpster dive.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, I wouldn't play Minnow. And if he gets that high, that's fucking nuts. D'Angelo Russell or Derek White. Are we talking in a vacuum or by price? I guess they're the same price. I like D'Lo better. I don't think that's a common opinion, but yeah, that's my take is D'Lo.
I'm gonna take D'Lo for the ownership discount. I think White's gonna be the mega chalk, and I think they project super similar. And I already talked about wanting to be on the second game a little bit more than the super chalk first game.
Yep. Naz Reid or Al Horford. If you have the salary, I would play Horford just because of the low ownership. But I have them projected almost even on points. So if you can use the salary to get something better, I would play Naz Reid.
Yeah, 100% agree there. I mean, Reid's a good play. Horford definitely gets lost in the shuffle here. If you can get him over Naz, that's a great way to get your team different.
Yeah, it's not like Cat can fucking play defense.
No.
All right, let's see here. Would you set a rule to do max X amount of the cheap plays? No. No rules. Fuck rules. No rules, just right. Outback Steakhouse, sponsor of RPS. We love Australians. All right. Thoughts on fading Cat and Gobert? I don't like it. I think they're both really, really, really good plays, and I would not do that.
Yeah, I think you can probably play one. I mean, I think Gobert comes in way lower than Cat here.
Yeah, I like Gobert a lot. Let's see here. How many Lakers is too many? I think you can play 4. Again, it's like the Knicks. I think you can play 4 as long as one of them is either Jackson, Hayes, or Connect. Other than that, you're playing LeBron and AD is cool, but you don't want to play LeBron, AD, and D'Lo. Like I don't think that's the move.
No, so it's LeBron and AD, it's too much salary on one team for a 2-game slate.
Yes, it's not. It's less about how many players and more about how much salary you're using on that team. That's a very good point.
I think that's a really good point with the salary as opposed to the players more on a 2-game slate.
Pritchard, yes, I got Pritchard like 25%. I like him a lot.
I don't like Pritchard quite as much as Mark does in this spot, but I still have a decent amount of Pritchard teams, and I'm pretty heavy Pritchard and Hauser both in Showdown.
Any love for Jackson Hayes tonight? I like him a lot in Showdown, which we'll touch on in a minute. But on the main slate, Jackson Hayes, I've got. Where is he? Fuck. Do I have none? I've got none.
I have a ton in Showdown and like not a lot on the main slate. I think I have 2% Jackson Hayes. I have two out of 150 Jackson Hayes teams.
It's just tough to play him over McBride and Jericho Sims. I feel like
that. And also, like, he's center only. And, like, you want to be playing centers on this slate in general. Like, Anthony Davis, like, Cat, Gobert, Naz Reid. Like, those are all center guys that, like, you really do want to play. So, like, you know, if you're playing two of them, you can't play him.
Yep.
So that just kind of lowers his ownership as well, or how much I'm on him.
Do you guys think McBride gets more minutes than Payne? Yes.
1,000%. I would think McBride has to get hurt to not get more minutes than Payne here.
Knecht or Vincent? Knecht for sure. Knecht. He even if Vincent plays more minutes, Knecht scores more while he's out there.
Yeah, he's going to shoot. You know, I'm not sure if you guys haven't seen this guy play in college or preseason, but he likes to shoot.
Yeah,
and they drafted him for a reason. And
yes,
the shoot.
He's
it's
there
to shoot
because
the rock.
he fits with LeBron.
Yes.
Any thought on 5,100 Dante? I like Dante a lot. He kind of gets lost in the shuffle versus your 5,300 OG and Hard a little higher and that kind of thing. But I have Dante a significant amount, probably like 30-35%.
Yeah, I'm sitting around 30% Dante. I think. Let me check my file here, but you know, I don't think he's that much worse of a play than like these Knicks guys, and he's going to be way lower owned. I think that's a nice spot to get some leverage.
How much salary can you leave on DraftKings? I think you can leave 300, 400 would be about like I wouldn't go any lower than 49.6. On FanDuel, you can leave a little more, 500, 600 on a 2-game slate. But I wouldn't go much lower than that.
Yeah, I'm not really leaving salary in NBA ever. Like if you guys are like talking about leaving like a lot of salary to be different, you know, I would much rather be different by playing like, I don't know, Al Horford and like, I don't know, like LeBron and like weirder plays that like people aren't going to be on compared to the other guys in their price range.
Are you playing LeBron and AD together? Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm not separating
no
that.
Reason not to.
Yeah, I mean, in general, people make too many rules trying to get too cute on short slates. You know, you see it all the time with like, oh, like you can't play player X and player Y together. Like Derrick Henry and Lamar last night, for example. I know it's a different sport, but like, you know, people made rules to like prevent that from happening.
Dumb.
Like, it's easy that like one of these offenses can just go out there and smash. Like, I mean, it's super viable. We've seen it 1,000 times.
And on the exact same note, yes, you can play Naz and Gobert together. There's no reason not to do that. Naz is cheap. Gobert's cheap. Like, it could easily get there on a 2-game slate.
I think it's actually good to play some of these guys.
I like it a lot.
Just because like A, people won't do it. And B, it automatically gets you different. Like there's not tons of ways to get different on a 2-game slate. And like, that's how I like to do it. Like NFL Showdown, you play like a weird captain that like is different from the rest of your team. Like I won on FanDuel the other day with like Breece Hall captain and 4 Steelers. Like, you know, there's ways to get different and get away from the field without leaving tons of salary and just being done with your teams.
Do y'all object to just locking Miles and Naz and interchanging studs? No, especially if you're running like a 20 max. Like, I think that is a very, very smart thing to do, personally.
I play slightly more aggressively than you. Like, I would lock McBride in 20 max. I would not lock him in 150, and I'm playing 150 today. But I would lock him in 20 max. I don't think I would double lock him in Naz. You know, they're the best plays on the slate, but like it just makes your path so much like more narrow. Like I would probably like go I don't know, 100% McBride and like 50 to 70 Nas if I was playing 20 max here.
Yeah.
Like 3 max, I would lock all for both of them.
Is Knecht better than Hauser? I think they're roughly similar.
I mean, they're pretty much the same player.
Yeah, the same guy.
I think that Knecht has an easier path to getting shots up than Hauser, but like Hauser's the more known commodity. So
yeah,
I'm ending up with about the same. If you had to make me choose, I'd choose Hauser just ever slightly, but it's a complete toss-up in my opinion.
Let's see here. I keep landing on no Boston players. Y'all okay with that? Yes, but I would dig into why that's happening. Is it because you have too many Knicks? Is it because you have too many Lakers? I know the Boston guys are a little overpriced for most of them, like most of the mid-range. But like, if it's not going to fit, like say you have 4 Knicks and no Boston, like, is that really going to happen? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Like, it depends on the individual team. Like, with 150 teams, like, I don't really worry about stuff like that too much. Like, I'm not creating a rule where it's like minimum 1 from every team, just because like, you're going to need guys from different teams. Like, you're not going to win playing like 4 Lakers and 4 Knicks. Like, you need some of the opposition here. So that's something that that's one advantage of hand building over like using like optimizers and stuff. I think it's okay to fade a team personally, but I would definitely look into why. Like, if you're playing say you're playing LeBron and AD together, like that's a scenario where you could end up with like no Boston. You play like a cheap Laker, you get some runbacks in the game, and then you fill it out with Knicks value. I think that's a totally viable team.
Let's see here. Can you play Knecht and Knecht and Hauser together? Yes.
Yeah, definitely.
Favorite FanDuel plays. All right, we'll touch on this real quick. The big difference to me, I'll just go ahead and go off here. The best play on FanDuel is Rui Hachimura, 4,200, way too cheap. So that is the primary difference between DraftKings and FanDuel. Is that on FanDuel you want to jam Hachimura, and then Naz Reid, same as it is. Miles McBride is not nearly as good of a play on FanDuel. I don't have a whole lot of him over there. The best expensive guy on FanDuel, due to pricing and a variety of other things, is Jalen Brunson, just because there aren't a lot of point guards and he's kind of cheaper than like LeBron's 9,900, he's 8,900. So I much prefer Jalen Brunson on FanDuel than DraftKings. So the 2 favorite plays for me on FanDuel would be Jalen Brunson and Rui Hachimura. What about you?
Yeah, I think those are really good points. I mean, we always want to talking to stocks. I think Naz Reid is a better play on FanDuel than McBride. So like, I know we've been talking like McBride versus Nas the whole time. I think it's McBride on DraftKings and Nas on FanDuel. I think that's a good way to split it up, just because like Nas can like run into these huge stock games that like just make him like stone nutted opti, like even on a big slate. I have a ton of Nas here. I think OG is another one of those guys that can just stock his way to victory. I put a lot of like thought into like who can really stock, and especially on a 2-game slate, like when there might not be as many like pure scores to go around. You really want those guys that can contribute like auxiliary stats, especially defensive ones.
Scroll down here. Luke Cornett. On DraftKings, I have Luke Cornett quite a bit. Let me double check. I'm like almost 20% on Luke Cornett. I think he gets significant minutes behind Horford. Horford's old as shit. They're not going to play Horford some crazy amount of minutes in the first game. I think Cornett gets like a solid 17, 18 minutes, and he's proven he can rack up stats in that kind of time frame.
Yeah, I'm not quite as high on Cornett, but I expect to be well over the field here. I have about 15% of him. Pretty much what Mark said there. I think even on FanDuel, he's a good play there. If we're talking about stock players, Luke Cornett is a great stock player.
Yep. What we got next? Which one busts, OG or Hart? I think that they're the same player, so they're kind of equally likely. I think there are situations where Hart doesn't shoot, so I guess OG is a little safer, but neither one is like safe.
I mean, this is why I like to play MME in NBA, just because like I can't. If I had to guess, I would guess OG. I think he's a little more stock dependent than Hart, but I literally have them both like the same ownership.
Yeah. All right. How many uniques for 20 teams? I would go 2.
Yeah, if you're not seeing the diversity in your teams that you want with 20 teams, I think it's viable to go 3 here. But yeah, 2 or 3.
Who is the best to follow for DK lineups on the core? Me. Max Christie
I don't have NBA cores, so I'm just going to abstain from this discussion.
Max Christie on FanDuel. Yeah, I mean, I've got him like low teens. I definitely think he's viable. Point guard is pretty thin over there. So I don't. Sorry, shooting guard. Shooting guard's pretty thin over there, so I don't see why you wouldn't play him. He's going to be in double-digit amounts of my lineups. So, I think he could certainly get there. Again, the problem is, as with most of the Lakers scrubs, what are they going to do with Bronny? Is Bronny going to get significant minutes? And if so, it's not that we want to play Bronny. It's that it could fuck the other guys over.
Yeah, I think Christie's a great example of like a play that I'm going to have more on FanDuel just due to like pricing and like roster requirements. Like on DraftKings, like the pricing is so soft and you just end up with like a ton of McBride at like value guard that like it brings more of the value guards into play on FanDuel that you might not have as much on DraftKings. So like if you're getting more of him on FanDuel than DraftKings, I think that's the correct approach.
Yeah. All right, let's see here. Guys, don't sleep on Mike Conley. We're not sleeping on Mike Conley. I got him a good amount.
No, I mentioned Mike Conley, I think earlier in the show. It's like, if you're a warm body and you're playing point guard for a good amount of minutes on a 2-game slate, I'm going to play you. And I don't think anyone plays Mike Conley here. Like, I think like him, Gobert, like these Timberwolves guys, I think really get cut from ownership. Dante, like everyone's going to want to play Nas, and then like probably Ant. I think Ant carries some ownership here, and then like no one else from the Timberwolves, in my opinion. So, I really do want to go after like their second tier type of players.
Yeah. If playing a single bullet in a DK 150, is it just lock McBride and differentiate elsewhere? Yes.
Single bullet, I'd play McBride. Yeah. I wouldn't want to be under him.
I wouldn't worry too much about getting different because tonight is so it's so spread, especially at the top. I don't think you have to try. It'll just happen.
Playing single entry tonight. I'm not doing it, but I would approach it like I would play McBride and Nas Reed. I would play LeBron, and then I would play like Gobert and or Conley, and then fill out the rest of the team.
I really like Gobert for single entry. Yeah,
I think that like if you're playing like Gobert and LeBron or like Mike Conley or someone like that, like you're automatically going to get different. Like ownership's just going to condense so much around these Boston studs and the Knicks value.
Yep. Dillingham playable? No.
I got none.
LeBron White or Tatum Reeves, DK Cash. I would go with LeBron.
I would probably be playing LeBron and Tatum in Cash. I don't think it's that hard to get. I did not play Cash today. Mangone has our Cash stuff up.
I do think that LeBron and the optimal Cash lineup would be both LeBron and Tatum for sure.
Yeah. If I had to choose one, I think White's much more of a Cash play than Reeves.
Is Ant just getting squeezed? Yeah. I think that Ant has a little bit lower projection. His props are a little lower than your LeBrons and your ADs and your so forth at the top Tatums. The Lakers are not a bad team on defense. So, Ant is kind of, without Towns there, Ant is the guy. So it's like he's going to have all of the defense focused on him. And, we'll see what happens. We'll see if he can handle it. But, I understand fully why he's getting squeezed because he's a little more scoring dependent than LeBron and Tatum and Davis. They do a little more on the peripheral stats. So I'm not a big fan of AE tonight. But, yeah, he's definitely getting squeezed.
I think that he's more. I think I'm a little higher than you are on Ant, just because like I'm totally fine leaning into scoring dependent players on short slates. I think he's a much better play on DraftKings relative to FanDuel, just because like he's not going to go out and get you like a triple double with stocks like some of these other guys will. So
yeah,
I like him more on DraftKings.
FanDuel favorite center. My favorite center on FanDuel is Naz Reid.
Okay. What if it's not Naz? No Naz.
If it's not Naz Reid, it's Towns.
Okay. I like that answer.
Let's see. DK, James McBride or Gobert Holiday? James
McBride.
Let's see. How do y'all feel about adjusting the projection of Russell Reeves so you get them over the Knicks guys? Best ways to get different. I don't know that they're going to be that low owned. Like I have a significant amount of Russell and Reeves to begin with, like just not fucking with it. If you're only running one or two lineups, then yeah, like you don't really need to adjust the projection. Just fucking do it. But I don't like them against your OGs and Hearts. Like, yeah, like they're like 40-60 against them. So it's an easy way to get leverage on the market, and you've got a good shot at them beating them.
Yeah, I have the Knicks guys up here, like the Lakers guys here, and then like the Timberwolves guys, like Conley and DiVincenzo, like here. Like no one's like down, like way below. So like, if you have a strong take on, any of these values, I think that's totally viable. I think the only Knicks guy that like you would really have to worry about ownership with is McBride. Like we've talked a ton about him.
Let's see here. Would you play Horford over OG? No.
Personally, no.
Bets for games. I tend to like the Lakers and the Celtics.
Mark is the betting expert here, so I'm going to defer to him on that.
I have a lot of hockey bets today. There's 16 games.
Well,
I can go over some hockey bets if y'all
It's
want.
easier to bet hockey than it is to bet
hockey's basketball. A much easier sport to beat than NBA.
I mean, NBA is just such an efficient market. And I know you guys probably don't want to hear this, but I think DFS is much more beatable than betting in NBA. Now, if you're doing props and stuff like that, like that's a totally different game. But like just betting like straight up lines and totals, I don't think there's any edge there.
All right, before I answer the next few questions, let's get into the Celtics showdown before the game starts. As far as captains for the Celtics Knicks game for the showdown, who are your favorites?
Say that again. Captains for
the Celtics showdown game.
I pretty much am just playing four captains here. I tend not to get too crazy at captain. I mean, I'm playing Tatum, Brunson, Brown, Towns.
Yeah.
Agree. I don't think I include anyone else.
Yeah, and Brown I think is significantly worse based on the price point. I feel like Towns is going to be pretty chalky because he's cheaper and he's projected pretty high. But yeah, I think it's just those four that I would play at captain, and then your best utility play is going to be like the main slate where it's McBride and Jericho Sims.
Yep, I agree with all that. I think it's actually easier to fade McBride on Showdown than it is on the main slate.
Yeah. Let's see. On Sabre, do you guys ever mess with stack exposures? No.
I cap teams. Like,
yeah. 2 game slate, no more than 4. Anything higher, no more than 3. Let's see. Schlong, do you have core?
I do not have cores for NBA right now. Kind of just busy with other
stuff.
Spit
it out, baby.
All right. We'll give a core to the people here. All right.
Give the people what they want.
All right. We're going to go McBride, Naz, LeBron, Gobert, and I'm going to go with Josh Hart.
I have McBride, Naz, LeBron, Josh Hart, but I have Anunoby. As
I'm glad I didn't say OG because I was about to say.
I have almost the fucking same thing.
I haven't even looked at your stuff either. That's just.
Sorry, you guys mentioned Sam Hauser.
I talked to you too much.
I do not mind Sam Hauser at all. I like him.
No, I like that. If you're ending up with Sam Hauser, that's a way to get different and just say, fuck it, I'm going to roll this team. Yeah. Like, that's just stuff that like you get with optimizers that you don't get hand clicking in stuff just because it's like, oh, do I really want to do this? I can improve it. And then like, you're not like weird enough.
Gobert Knecht or Dante and Hart. I would go with the Dante side, I think. I don't know about you.
Dante side, but like if the rest of your team is like mega chalky, I think you can go Gobert Knecht.
Knecht has high upside if he's hot. How many Wolves is too many? I would go as high as 4, as long as, at least one of them is, like a Nickeil Alexander-Walker type where it's a cheaper guy. You don't want 4 starters, but yeah, 3 or 4 would be the max.
If you're playing, it goes the same as the other teams. Like if you're playing Ant Gobert, like it would have to be like Walker and then someone else cheap. Like it wouldn't be like a Conley type to me.
Right. Let's see, and that kind of answered that question. Any love for Knecht on DK for 3,900? Yeah, we talked about it. We like him. Lock NHL bet. Colorado under. Colorado game under.
God, they've been awful this year. They're starting to heat
Avalanche game.
They're starting to heat up a little bit. We need our puck guru in here, Wiley.
Yeah.
Where's our NHL team?
Yeah. DK single entry, Cat, Hart, or Gobert and White. I would go with Towns.
Yes. Cat Hart. By a mile, I think they're.
Let's see. That's about right. I go out and I stand by my pool and I stare at the sun for a little bit, and then that's it.
You don't stand outside cleaning your pool?
Yeah.
When I had a pool in San Diego, I did that for like my old man. Like I was in my like younger 20s, and like that was like my old man move. Would just be like, oh, go sit and like
let me go smoke a cigarette and stare at the water.
Smoke a cigarette and go clean the pool, because we didn't have one of those pool robots or whatever. We were running the house, so it's not like we were going to buy one. We had a pool guy come by during the week, but I tried to keep it clean.
Let's see, high owned fades. I'm not really big on fades, but like Jaylen Brown and Randall would be the 2.
I'm going to agree with you on Randall, disagree on Brown. I've given my reasons for Brown. A guy that I just don't like at all is Bridges. I just don't think that he has enough upside to get there, and he's going to garner ownership. Now,
especially I'm not like FanDuel, he can get there.
FanDuel, he can get there with stocks. Have you seen his shooting form?
It looks ridiculous.
It looks like me in high school. And I was not a good high school basketball player. Like this, it's pretty absurd.
Yeah.
I don't get what he's doing. Like, I mean, he was a good or decent shooter before that. So I don't really want anything to do with him. And on 2-game fades, like I'm playing 150 teams. I'm not like clicking them out, but like those are going to be some of my highest sells. Randall, Bridges, and Jaden McDaniels, I think is like the worst mid-range play that I think people are going to be on.
I'm going to touch on that because my strongest take tonight is fuck Jaden McDaniels. Like, I am hardcore going low on him. I don't think he's going to do shit. Everybody else in that price range is a great value, and Jaden McDaniels is going to spend all of his energy guarding LeBron. Like, I don't like it.
There we go. I don't like Jaden McDaniels either. So I think the LeBron thing's interesting. I do think that like it's going to lead him to play a good amount of minutes, but like there's so much 5K value.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, give me Dante DiVincenzo over him from the same team every time.
Yep. Is Nall playable? Yes.
Yes, 100%. I actually have a lot in Showdown. So, yeah, I think he's slightly more of a Showdown play than a full slate play, just because like McBride takes a lot of him out of the equation for me. But I mean, I'm still getting to like almost 10% on him. So he's definitely in my.
He's in the mix. Yes.
I would play him in single entry. I mean,
there's no real downside to.
If you told me whether to lock or fade him, which essentially it would be, I would lock.
Yeah. How many minutes from Minot? Like very little.
5.
6. Yeah. Reeves, Russell, or Derek White? I would go with Russell.
I like the Russell take that you have here. I'm gonna roll with it.
So we got 9 minutes left. We got one more showdown to touch on. We'll go to the Minnesota showdown. What captains are you playing in this slate?
So I think that the Minnesota showdown is not quite as straightforward as the earlier showdown. So obviously you're playing LeBron and Anthony Davis, and you're playing Anthony Edwards. It's like, do you include the Julius Randles and like the Goberts of the world? I would lean towards yes, but I would totally get it if you capped it at 3. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I was having the exact same mindset. When I originally was running it, I was getting too much of Randall and Gobert at captain, and so I capped them at like a very low figure, and then I just gave the rest to the AD, LeBron, AE crowd. So I think it's completely logical to only play the 3 of them, but that is not exactly what I did.
Yeah, I think it's more important to cut off like the Russell and below crowd personally. Like, and this is always an issue for me on Lakers showdown slates, and Lakers showdown slates are pretty much like one of my specialties just because there's so many of them. Like if there's a featured late night showdown and it's always the Lakers game. So you get to play a lot of fucking Lakers showdown slates throughout the year. And it's the same question as it was last year. I wasn't including these guys last year, and I don't plan to this year. Like, I think it's just kind of play the big 2 and move on from the Lakers. From the Wolves, a little more interesting. I think you can make a case for Randall and Gobert. Like, I'm going to do it, but probably not have a lot.
Yep. Okay, and then at utility in that, I'll just go ahead and I think that Hayes at the base is a good play, and then you're looking at getting a ton of Naz Reid, a ton of DiVincenzo, short the hell out of Jaden McDaniels. Basically the same takes that we've been having all night about that game. So I'll answer a few final questions before we get out of here. Let's see. We got Reed. Oh, we already answered that one. Tatum and Cornette or White and Pritchard. I would go with Tatum.
I would go White and Pritchard.
Any Holiday love? I have a very large amount of Holiday, like between 35 and 40% on DraftKings. So
yeah, I think that all these like 5K guys like that aren't the Knicks guys get lost in the shuffle here, and I think the Lakers guys come in second. So like Boston and Minnesota is a pretty good way to fill it out, excluding Derek White. He's going to come in pretty chalky.
JT or Bron and Cash, flip a coin.
I would say Tatum personally. Mark would probably say LeBron based on his takes on the show, but you're splitting hairs. I know we touched on it earlier. I would ideally like to get to both.
Yeah. All right. Reeves, Russell, White, pick 2. Reeves and Russell.
I'm going to go Russell and White.
All right, guys. We're going to get the fuck out of here. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope we provided some fucking knowledge for you, and good luck to everybody tonight.
Yeah. Make sure to like the show. We don't work for free.